Today I'm going to show you how to do a frequency separation action, how to create an action for frequency separation. And there are quite a few different ways you can do this, different modes you can use and what have you. This is just one of many. So the first thing we're going to do is, well, I can't help myself, I have to crop this image first. So there she is. You can zoom in, look at her skin, and she's got freckles, which I love, and a few little marks, but she has some texture issues right here in her cheek, and you see a few blemishes like here and here, and a few little bumps right here. And so we can correct all of that pretty simply with frequency separation, as well as adjust some of the tone in this image. You can see how the tone's really uneven throughout some of these areas. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here and click Create a New Action. And I'm going to call this one Frequency Separation. Now if you're looking at my other actions over here, you'll see I have quite a few. This is my normal frequency separation. I put Skin Perfection using frequency separation, but you can name it whatever you want, just whatever it takes for you to remember what it is. So the first thing we're going to do is check to make sure our mode is in 16-bit. This is an 8-bit, so let's change it to 16-bit channel. And we need two layers, one for high frequency and one for low frequency. In high frequency, we'll adjust our details and our texture. So those blemishes, the bumps, we'll take those away in the high frequency layer. In the low frequency layer, we'll adjust color, how light or dark something is, and the actual color. We can paint over it, and it won't affect the texture. So you could actually change, you could lighten somebody's hair without taking away the texture of the hair, like painting it would do. So you can use frequency separation clearly for many more things than just skin, although it's most commonly used for skin. So first thing we need to do is create two layers, and you can hit Control J, or if you're on a Mac, Command J to create a new layer. And so I just hit Control J twice to create these two new layers. We want to name the top layer, we're going to name it high frequency, or you can name it whatever it helps you to remember what it is, but you can put high, and you can even put detail, like maybe dash detail. Did I put two L's? Yeah, and texture, just so you can remember what you're working on. And then low, you're going to want to rename that low, and this of course is where you adjust the color and your light and dark. So now we have these two new layers. Let's go ahead and deselect the top layer, the high layer, and let's work on the low layer first. And so what we can do is we can go to Filter, Blur. Now there's another way to do this too. You can take away the dusts and scratches, but this is not what we're going to do this time. Like I said, there's a lot of ways to go about doing this. We're going to use Gaussian blur, and what you want to do is get to a spot on her skin where you can see like there's some blemishes and texture issues right here. And so what we want to do is, like, if you go down here, you can still see them. We want to just keep moving it until all the color looks pretty similar. You don't want it to be mottled looking like that. You also don't want it to be a complete blur like that. So anywhere around between 5 and 6 is good. So maybe 5.7 will work just fine. And hit OK. And that's really all we need to do for the low layer, because you know that when you're working on the low layer, you're only adjusting the color, and it shouldn't affect the textures. So go ahead and deselect the low layer, click off that little eyeball, click it on in the high layer, and highlight your high layer. So now we're working on the high layer, we're adjusting that. And what you're going to do is you're going to go up here to Image, and you're going to go to Apply Image. And we want to make sure that we're on the low layer. And when you click onto this, it'll probably already be on Merged, so you want to click Low. It won't be inverted yet, so go ahead and click Invert. Make sure your scale is on 2. Your blending mode, make sure it's on Add, and your offset at 0. And if you notice, this looks like when you go to a high pass and sharpen. The thing is, with a high pass and high pass sharpen, you typically change your blending mode to overlay. So here's where you find your blending modes. We are going to go ahead and change our blending mode to linear light. Now you see it all looks normal now. And that's pretty much all you have to do to create those 2 layers for frequency separation. We'll go ahead and click the little eyeball on that so both layers are highlighted. Another thing that you can do before you stop this action, just to make it fun for previewing and seeing what you've done, is create a new group. You click this group folder down here, and right now there's nothing in this group folder, but what we're going to do is we're going to click the high and the low, hit control to click both of them, hold the control button, and then just drag that, it's the little fist, into the group. And so now when you click that, notice it's all piled up in that group. So when you go to unclick that eyeball, it shows you your original image. When you click it, it shows you everything that you've done so far. So at that point, go ahead and stop your action, stop playing recording. This is your new action, frequency separation. And so to run that action, say you open up a fresh image. This is the image that we started with. I just undid everything. I went to history, went back up to the top where we first uploaded the image. And I'm going to go ahead and recrop it. And I'm going to go to actions, and I'm going to run that frequency separation action. Now it's running the whole thing. The action is run. I'm going to zoom in on her pretty little face. I'm going to get nice and close. I'm going to click on my detail and texture layer first. And I like to use the clone stamp for this. The clone stamp, you can click Alt, and it will be using this texture, whatever texture is wherever you want. I click that, and that texture right there is what I'm going to be painting on over here. So basically I'm changing this texture to that texture. Notice it doesn't change the color. This color did not become this color. It's only adjusting the texture. So I'm clicking here, getting rid of that. Notice there's still a pink mark because the color is also an issue, not just the texture on that. But right now we're just adjusting all the textures. So I'm going to hit my space bar, and that gives me this little hand, and I can click and move the screen with that hand, which is nice. Still doing texture, so let's click on that and get rid of some of that. Notice there's still a little bit of residual color issues right there. I'm going to go ahead and get over that one. Anytime it's a texture thing, this texture painting over it with that clone stamp will really help. Zoom out a little bit. I'm going to take some of this texture right here and put it right over here on these blemishes and try to clean those up a little bit. And if you notice, like, even you can get rid of these little, where the eyebrows meet right here. Alt, clean that up. Look, they're gone. If she was 17 and, waxing that, I might handle that for her, but she's a child and she's my child, and I think that's adorable. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo what I just did so I can keep her little brows right there. So her textures for the most part are pretty good. There's this little fleck of something by her nose, so I'm going to make this teeny tiny, and I'm going to take that from right there and clean that up. And clean it up right there. And that's taken care of. And you can just click this eye. Well, not what I meant to do. Click this ungroup thing to see the difference. And notice you just barely see anything because we just took care of some textures. If you look right here, and now I'm going to click this. See, it disappears. So it's not a huge difference. You don't want it to be huge. You don't want to look like you shopped this to death. Then click on the low layer, the color layer, and the adjustments will be a little bit more dramatic. Anytime you're adjusting color of something, it's more dramatic. So I'm going to use my dodge and burn. Dodge, of course, is where you lighten. Burn is where you darken. So there's my dodge brush. I'm going to lighten this a little bit just to even that out because it was very dark in there. Going to lighten under here a little bit. And I'm also going to use my paintbrush. And you can hit Alt. And if you notice, it gives you the dropper. I'm going to select that color right there and even out some of this a bit. And then I'm going to click my dropper right there, and I'm going to even out some of this a little bit. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a smaller brush. Notice my opacity and my flow are not terribly high. My opacity is set at 28%. My flow is set at 32%. So it's going on very gradually. I'm going to fix this pink. Going to keep adjusting some of these colors until I get it to where I want it. Now I also have a little bit of color adjustments that need to happen down here. So I'm going to paint over that a little bit. Notice that it doesn't change my texture at all. It just changes the color. This is a great thing to do if you're touching up somebody's roots. You just go change the color, and it leaves the texture of the hair as is, which is very nice. Helps a lot when you're doing photo sessions and somebody hasn't had time to get their hair touched up. So there she is, looking all gorgeous. And you can unclick this. That's the before and that's the after. Before, after. You can also, on the color saturation, you can even work on the teeth a little bit. See how they have a little bit of a yellow tint to them? You can go to this sponge tool right here, and notice mine's already set for desaturate. I'm going to set it down a little bit, like maybe 10%. I can desaturate some of that, like take out some of that yellow. Now you don't want to do too much adjusting. You don't want the teeth to look too unnatural, but see, look at the before and after. Take out some of that yellow. So, don't want to make the teeth so white that it looks unnatural, but taking out a little bit of yellow is not bad. So here's our overall before and after. Before, after. Before, after. And if you notice, it's not anything somebody's going to just be like, whoa, she's been shopped, but it just takes care of a few of the little blemishes and evens things out. Makes the image look gorgeous. And of course, there's a lot of other things that I would do to this image before I finished it. But that is your tutorial on frequency separation. I hope you're able to create your own action from this and go edit those pictures.